So it's important for us also to discuss the difference between functions and methods. Sometimes we're going to use them interchangeably, but keep in mind that there is a difference. When we talk about the class level and the object level, they have different definitions. So, for example, here, let's comment out the previous example so we don't print this here, that we had it before. And now let's print the type of the greet action when we call tiny object and when we use the class itself, and then let's take a look to see here what happens. So in the first example here, when we call the greet function within the object, tiny object, this is called a method because it's bounded to the object and the class itself. But then when it's not bounded to an object, we call this a function. We're gonna pretty much use them interchangeably, especially because it's even though this is a strong definition, as we can see here in the type, for our videos, and it should be fine, okay? But keep in mind they are pretty much different. Also, one thing we should keep in mind that there are attributes that are shared within the class level and within the object level. For example, as we can see here, the num attribute, it's in the class level. So any object from that class, it should share the same attribute. And we're going to talk about this a little bit later on. But keep in mind that all the objects from this class, they have this attribute here in common. So if I say tiny object, my class, or tiny object 2, and that's my class as well. Tiny object 1 and tiny object 2, they share the same num here, but at the function level, as for our greet function right here, they're pretty much different. And how we can show this, let's delete this so we see what's happening. So let's go ahead and print it out, the tiny object 1 in this case right here, and we're going to print it out num, and we're going to check if this is the same thing as that we have in our class num. And we want to understand that since these are pretty much the same attributes as we can see here, they should be the same, okay? Now, if we go ahead and print that, we see that that's true because num for tiny object and num for class, they are the same thing. Now, if we go ahead and change that for the greet function, we'll see, remember when we talk about this was bounded to the object and class, and now if we go there and run, we'll see that that's false. Why? Because the function, the method that's bounded to this object, it's different from the function from that class itself. And reference-wise, they're different. Think as they are stored in different place in memory. It's bending a little bit, but think as they are completely different structures, even though they have the same name. Okay, so pretty much. When we have like different objects, and even a class here, which is an object by itself, the greet function here, it's completely different, while the attribute, since this is bounded to the class definition here, they were the same. Okay, so thank you and happy coding.